It's Gigi Tutors, and today we're going to be walking through one of the workbooks I've created for my 8th grade students. When I'm tutoring for reading comprehension, a big part of that is grammar application. This specific workbook recaps all of the lessons that I've taught them this month. These workbooks are custom made for every student. If you're interested in a full-time tutor, go ahead and message me. So as you can see here, we are covering a wide range of topics, but our first one is sentences and sentence fragments. So a sentence is a group of words that expresses a complete thought. It has a subject and a predicate, and it forms a complete idea. Whereas a sentence fragment is a group of words that does not have a complete idea. So our examples are, the cat sat on the mat. That's a sentence. Sat on the mat is a sentence fragment because it does not have a complete thought. Who sat on the mat? Now we're going to identifying sentence and sentence fragments. So we're going to determine if the group of words is a sentence fragment, and here are the things we need to check. Does it have a subject? Does it have a predicate? Does it express a complete thought? If the answer is yes to all these questions, then it is a sentence. If not, it is a fragment. So let's go ahead and go to our worksheet portion. So here we're going to identify whether each group of words is a sentence or sentence fragment. So the first one says after school. So does it have a subject? Does it have a predicate? No, and it does not express a complete thought. What happened after school is something we would want to ask. Now we're going to go to number 2. My best friend and I went to the movies last night. This is a sentence because best friend and I, those are the subjects, went to the movies last night. That's the predicate. That's what we did. That's the action. 3, running to catch the bus. Who did that? That's a fragment. The concert was amazing. This is a sentence. It expresses a complete thought and has a subject and predicate. In the part, that's going to be a fragment. The car drove down the street. This one is a sentence because it expresses a complete thought. Before the storm arrives. Before the storm arrives what? This is a fragment. The book that I borrowed from the library. What about it? Fragment again. And for this one specifically, if we just added something to the end, it would be a full sentence. Like the book that I borrowed from the library is due tomorrow. This is telling us a complete thought. Well, how do we know that? We just have to ask ourselves, does it have a subject and complete predicate? Our subject would be the book that I borrowed from the library, and our predicate would be is due tomorrow. Now going on to number 9, went to the store. Who went to the store? That's another fragment. And then 10, the sun set over the horizon. That is a sentence because it expresses a complete thought. Well, now that we know what a sentence is, let's go over the subject and predicate portion. These are very important parts of a sentence. A subject is a person, place, thing, or idea that the sentence is about. And the predicate is the action or state of being of the subject. So to identify the subject and predicate in a sentence, we're going to ask ourselves, who or what is that sentence about? And what is happening to the subject? So for example, we have the cat, which is our subject, sat on the windowsill. That would be our predicate. So let's ask ourselves the questions again. Who or what is the sentence talking about? The cat, that is our subject. And what is happening to the subject? They're sitting on the window. That's our predicate over here. And we should have 2 parts of our sentence usually. So for the second one, Mary is baking a cake. The rain poured down heavily. We have 2 parts of a sentence, the subject and the predicate. Okay, so now we know about that. So let's do some questions. Identify the subject and predicate in the following sentence. So the first one, we have the dog barked loudly. Who is the main character? The dog. So that's our subject. And what is it doing? It's barking loudly. Second one, the concert ended late last night. We're splitting it up into 2 parts. The concert is our subject and ended late last night is our predicate. This third one, my little sister loves ice cream. Subject is my little sister and predicate is loves ice cream. Again, we're splitting these into 2 parts. 2 parts, everybody. Okay, so now let's scroll down a little bit to look at our last question here, or our last 2 questions here. Before I go over the answers, see if you're able to identify the complete subject and complete predicate on your own. Remember, our sentence is split up into 2 parts, just like these last ones. Okay, so our answer is the teacher is the subject, graded the test quickly is the predicate. And the second one is the car stalled on the highway. It's split up into two parts. Now we're going to look at simple and compound sentences. So remember, a complete sentence shares and expresses a complete thought. And we have two types of sentences we're learning here, which is the simple sentence and the compound sentence. A simple sentence is a sentence that has one independent clause and expresses a complete thought. And it's a group of words that contains a subject and a verb and can stand alone as a complete sentence. So that's what an independent clause is. So a compound sentence is different because it has two of these. So let's look at a simple sentence. I love pizza. That has a complete thought, a subject, and a verb. So that's also an independent clause. I love pizza. It can stand alone. Now, a compound sentence just has two or more independent clauses joined by coordinating conjunctions. And I want you guys to remember this. Our coordinating conjunctions are and, but, or, nor, yet, and so. So let's look at an example sentence. I love pizza, comma, and my husband loves spaghetti. So do you see that there are two independent clauses in this sentence? I love pizza and my husband loves spaghetti. These are two independent clauses because we can see they each have a subject and a predicate. Okay, let's do some practice questions. So we're going to identify whether the following sentences are simple or compound. Okay, so let's start with this first sentence here. The sun was shining brightly and the birds were singing. So we see in our first independent clause, we have a subject, the sun, and a predicate, was shining brightly. We have two parts of this, so we know it's an independent clause. It can stand on its own. And over here, we have the same thing. The birds would be our subject. Were singing would be our predicate. So we have two parts of the sentence, and this is also an independent clause. So since we have two independent clauses, we know that this is a compound sentence. Okay, let's look at this second one here. I love pizza and ice cream. So it may seem like a compound sentence, but really we're only saying one thing here. I love pizza and ice cream. Our subject is I and our verb is love. So this is a simple sentence because it's only one independent clause. Now looking at number 3, we have John walked to the store. So we have a subject, John, and a predicate, walked to the store. But he forgot his wallet. Again, we have the subject, he, and the predicate, forgot his wallet. So this is a compound sentence. Number 4, the cat is our subject, slept all day is our predicate. Simple. We studied for the test. We did well. These are two independent clauses. So since there's two, we know it is a compound sentence. Now on to number 6. She played soccer. She didn't enjoy it. These are two independent clauses, compound sentence. He is tall, dark, and handsome. There's one subject and one predicate, so it is a simple sentence. Now, number 8, I want to go to the beach. I want to go to the mountains. These are two independent clauses, so you got it. It's a compound sentence. Okay, now we're going to distinguish plurals, possessives, and contractions. These concepts commonly get confused with one another, so let us talk about the differences. So first, plurals. Plurals refer to words that indicate more than one person, place, thing, or idea. So they're usually formed by adding an S or an ES to the end of the word, like book becomes books and dish becomes dishes. That is what I mean when I say plural. Now on to possessives. They indicate ownership or relationship. Possessive nouns are formed by adding an apostrophe S to the end of a singular noun. And if it's plural, we're going to add an apostrophe after an S. So if the book belongs to the girl, it's the girl's book. And if the book belongs to multiple students, it's students' books. Now moving on to our contractions. These are formed by combining two words and using an apostrophe to indicate where the letters have been omitted. So for example, I am becomes I'm and you will becomes you'll. Okay, it's practice time. We're going to identify whether each of the following words is plural, possessive, or a contraction. Okay, next to each of our questions, I'm going to use PL for plural, P for possessive, and C for contraction. Okay, so number 1, dogs. This just means that there are multiple dogs. We see this by the S at the end, so we know that it is a plural. Number 2, the boy's hat. We see an apostrophe S. It's one boy and his hat. This is a possessive. 3, we are, we're, and it's attached with an apostrophe, so it is a contraction. 4, the teacher's lounge. When it comes after the S, that means that it is more than one teacher and their lounge. So this is plural and possessive, actually, because there's more than one teacher, which makes it plural, and it is possessive. They possess the lounge. Number 5, it's. This is a contraction of it is. Looking at number 6, cats. This is also plural and possessive. More than one cat owns something. 7, their books. Books has an S at the end. This is just plural. She'll is a contraction. It means she will. And we're almost done with today's lesson. We have 2 more, and our second to last is going over appositives. Now, an appositive is a noun or pronoun that renames or explains. I want you to remember it. An appositive renames and explains another noun or pronoun, and it usually appears right after this and noun or pronoun and is set off by commas. So it makes it more interesting and informative. Right here we see my best friend, a talented musician, played the guitar at the party. A talented musician renames my best friend, and it kind of explains a little bit more about this person's best friend. And we can even see her right there. Now let's do a little practice. Again, you can always pause and do these on your own before we go over them together. The first one, my favorite food, pizza, is delicious. Pizza describes food, and that's our appositive. The capital of the U.S., Washington, D.C., is a popular tourist destination. Since pizza describes food, Washington, D.C. describes capital. Again, we're just explaining a little bit more about our subject. Number 3, my mom's car, a red convertible, is parked in the driveway. A red convertible describes car. A strict disciplinarian describes teacher. A fluffy poodle describes your sister's dog. And you can see that they're all set off by commas. So let's go ahead and now go to our second part of the practice. And this one you can do on your own. And all you have to do is add an appositive to the sentence. So for this first one, the author wrote many books. I did the example, the author, Susie, wrote many books. Susie is just explaining a little bit more about the author. What is her name? Her name is Susie. And you can continue doing this for the rest of them, 2 through 5. Go ahead and do on your own. And you can always comment down below what you used as your appositive in these sentences. Okay, and off to the last part of this lesson, transitive and intransitive verbs. Our time has gone by so fast. So we're going to learn what the difference between transitive and intransitive means. Transitive verbs have an object which receives the action of the verb. So transitive receives an action, whereas intransitive verbs do not have an object. Instead, they usually express action without transferring it to an object. So transitive receives and intransitive expresses. Okay, here we have some examples. She ate the sandwich. Ate is our verb, and what did she eat? The sandwich. The object sandwich is receiving the verb. Built sandcastle. Built has an object sandcastle. Corrected mistake. Corrected has the object mistake. Whereas our intransitive verbs, the baby slept for an hour. Slept does not have an object. The flowers bloomed in the garden. Bloomed does not have an object. The sun rose early this morning. The verb rose also does not have an object. Okay, let's do our practice questions. Again, pause and do them on your own if you'd like, but we're going to go over them together first. So we're going to identify if the following verbs are transitive or intransitive here today. And I'm going to put a T for transitive and an I for intransitive. So for number 1, opened what? The door. So this is transitive. The cat slept on the windowsill. Did they sleep the windowsill? Can you sleep something? No, so this is not transitive. This is actually intransitive. The teacher praised the student. They praised what? The student. It has an object, so it is transitive. Baby cried all night. They didn't cry to something. It is intransitive. The sun rose early this morning. Rose is intransitive. The wind blew the leaves off the tree. They blew the leaves, so it is transitive. Barked loudly is intransitive. And cooked the meal. They cooked the meal. So this is transitive. Okay, and that was this month's entire workbook. And of course, if you'd like to book a session, please message me. And I look forward to helping you all in school moving forward.